as a
borrow your consciousness. This is what they said. This was a short reptilian, spoke to me telepathically. He had a sense of humor. I could understand him as if it was English. He was the equivalent of 25 years or so in his own age, in his whatever world he was from. He explained it to me that he had a wife and kid. And he went home to his planet every day after working there in that base. And he said, we need your consent because we want to borrow your consciousness to help us out and do some work.
Yep.
And I said, what? So what do you mean? For how long? He said 20 years. And I said, no, I can't do that. My mom and dad, I'm going to miss out on my sister. My sister will grow up. I won't even know her. My mom and dad will miss me. I can't do that. He said, no. Listen, we have time travel. We're going to put you back exactly the same. This is a blessing to you. He's like, you are lucky to be chosen for this. You're special. So I said, yes. Immediately, they put me back on the table. They strapped me down and did a surgery. There was a needle that went into my tested to see which one was my dominant eye. There was an eyeball test, and they got my dominant eye, and they put a needle syringe like in the tear duct. Bam! And I felt like I saw stars, like getting punched. If you ever, the guys know what I'm talking about. Hopefully, the girls listening don't know what I'm talking about.
We get your bell rung. Yeah.
God bless. But if you get hit really hard, you see stars, and it was like that. It was that experience. It was like I got punched. I had no memory of my mom or dad or what had just happened. I had complete amnesia, as if I were a blank clone. Like they took me out and put me into a clone. And I woke up back in my 10-year-old body on the moon, in a base on the backside of the moon with a bunch of ETs on a table again. And I had no memory of the 20 years of on series, but I had the memories of my mom and dad and my sister back again. I went back to having all those memories. Do you get what I'm saying? It was like being taken out into a different body, lived 20 years. And then at the end, it was like they put me back and I had the original memory back.
Yes.
So that's what led me to theorize that cloning was what they did.
So
that's the only reason.
So much here, dude. Awesome, by the way. Absolutely awesome. Okay. So whenever you're describing this, what I'm thinking is kind of the Avatar model, right? Let's say that, the movie Avatar, whatever, they change their consciousness into a bigger vehicle or avatar. Now, this ties into what the reports of like the Greys, they've been reported as calling us vessels. And so maybe everything's a damn vessel, man. Maybe all of this is just like vehicles that you can just hop in, take the wheel over and drive. The NPC conversation we could probably put to the side, but I think that it ties in here if you go into the simulation theory and like personnel and all that kind of stuff. But what's interesting about this is if you think about that cloning is this way, and you could be anything, you know what I mean? They could have put you in a Grey's body, right? They could have put you in a reptilian's body.
So at some point it did, because I do remember.
Why are you personally coming forward?
I'm coming forward now because there are thousands of others out there that have been through this, that have gone on the 20 and back program. And I'm not just talking about Americans, we're talking globally. And some of the people that did not come back, their stories need to be told, whether they were soldiers or scientists or just civilians. They provided and gave the ultimate sacrifice for humanity, and their stories need to be told. We need to have full disclosure. The people need to be aware of some of the things that humanity has done. It's time to heal and to grow from that.
Children were picked who had certain DNA, and I was connected with that. And what they did was, when we were like 5 and 6 years old, they took us there, and they trained us, and we did. We learned and we trained and we did all sorts of operations when we were there. Now, when I was 5 years old, my parents moved to Los Angeles at the time, out of the blue, and I was living on Sepulveda Boulevard, and the Mars jump rooms for children were on at 999 Sepulveda Boulevard. I now know. So and I didn't know. So I had these memories before I knew that this particular information about these Mars jump rooms on Sepulveda Boulevard. It was a lot of training. So say from 5 years old to 25 years old was spent there, and I know some of the people now who are back here. But what they did then at the end of the Mars, at the end of that thing, is they used age regression technology, brought us back to 5 years old, and then placed us exactly back to where we were.
The reason so few went into the secret space program was that most of the participants, almost all of the participants, are pulled from various military branches. They bring people in to the military, send them through training, testing, find out where their skills lean, and if they have the fortitude for this type of mission, and then they're invited in or drafted in, and they'll serve a 20-year term. And this is referred to as a 20 and back. And after that 20 years, they're actually age regressed and regressed back in time.
Watch part 14.
That was handed to us by non-terrestrials. And then they were buttoned up in time.
The secret space program, Steal Your Mind. Imagine this. You've just been recruited into a secret government program. You are told that you're now a part of an elite group of people, and your fight is not with the forces on Earth. You endure months of grueling training, wondering what that last statement even meant. It is only when you're given your orders for your first mission, you realize your mission is Mars. Only known to a select group of people on Earth, Mars has actually already been colonized, and your mission was to defend it from hostile Martians. You spend the next 19 years of your life fighting to defend humanity on Mars, and you do a pretty good job. Eventually your time is up, and you get called into the director's office, handing you your discharge papers. Suddenly 2 armed officers restrain you, and a syringe of God knows what is injected into your neck. Next thing you know, you wake up and you're 16 again with a throbbing headache. You can remember everything vividly, but reality tells you that you were just dreaming. Even though no one believes you, you can watch the full video by clicking on the link in the description below to find out.
I want to talk about something that's very difficult to digest, and it's something that's happening to people, clients of mine, but it's really hard to process this as being truth. So I'm just going to share it, and for those that have experienced this, for those that have the same questions that my clients may have, this video is for you. So I want to talk about abductions, but not from aliens, from something else. And the program is known as like the secret space program or the 20 and back program. And this is where, if you're not familiar with it, there's a lot of stories of people remembering all 20 years of leaving and coming back. So imagine right now, in this point in time, this moment, you exit your lifetime, this lifeline, the linear timeline. You go somewhere, you work, sometimes as a slave, sometimes as a contractor, sometimes as something else. And then when your time is up, you come right back to the moment you left it at. Now imagine this happens to you, and the way your brain processes everything, because it's a 3-dimensional operating system, not a multi-dimensional, or not a multiverse level system like the soul is. And I'm doing it here at the gym because the music override what I'm saying. So imagine these things happen to you. How your brain is going to process it is going to be great or mass confusion and overwhelm. And so what the mind is going to do, typically, is shut it down. Store that shit away and really deep, Pandora's box, really deep in the basement of our filing system, our archive system. But what I'm doing is going through with clients, and we're going back to these moments where they know something happened, but it's hard blocked for them. And we're going in from the moment, the last moment they have in their memory bank, to the first moment they have after. And sometimes it's like 8 hours, sometimes it's an hour and a half, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 8 minutes. I don't see a pattern yet, because I haven't worked with thousands of people yet, and we've got about a small sample. So what we're doing now is we're trying to go down into these micro moments, and although we cannot travel with them like I can with alien abductions, what we can do is ask questions before they finish the exit with your essence, your consciousness, your soul. We can ask the questions, and sometimes they'll give us some answers, and sometimes they have fear themselves of sharing the information. So if this sounds like something you've experienced, please reach out to me. I know I'm going to be handling a lot more of these cases, and I want you to know that I am here and I can walk you through this.
Hey guys. So 20 and back technology, it says the Air Force made a deal with the Nordics so that they could covertly recruit more personnel meaning people out of society, into their secret space program. They were given new technology in order to accomplish this. As a compromise, the Air Force could only enlist personnel for up to 20 years at a time. Using this Nordic technology, they would then go through a pharmaceutical age regression, have their minds blank slated, and be portrayed back to their point of origin. A few minutes after they were abducted, similar programs exist or have existed on third density planets throughout the local cluster. It says the Air Force brass has been planning, developing it, and had plans to implement it for a while, but it wasn't actually implemented until right after Solar Warden became active in 1984. And we all remember Rex 84, right? Now, it's so funny that Rex 84 is documented in that because remember Obama signed the same thing, renewing this same clause in his term in office, right? It says Rex 84, short for Readiness Exercise 1984 Bravo, was a classified scenario and drill developed by the United States federal government to detain large numbers of United States residents deemed to be national security threats in the event that the president declared a national emergency. The scenario envisioned state defense forces, or FEMA, rounding up about 500,000 undocumented Central American residents and 4,000 American citizens whom the U.S. Attorney General had designed as national security threats. So remember when COVID started, a majority of us was put on a list, standing our ground, speaking the truth, right? And for other reasons. The 20 and back is an offer normally made to military personnel, but they also need civilians to act as specialists, so they needed people out of society with all hands on deck, right? It says only a very small percentage of civilian assets are used. Now listen to this. They go for 18 months, 4 years, or 8 years at a time. Then they are either reassigned or returned to Earth. Some civilian scientists, engineers, and technicians were being recruited from throughout the modern industrial age. Not one on a 20 and back is allowed to interact with VIPs or interact with Earth. After their time, they were recruited. It says this countermeasure is taken to prevent the creation of a time paradox. So when they take these people out of society and then they use this technology to memory wipe them, right? They can't put them back in general population, so they put them back in remote areas where they're able to live a regular life. Happens so, just like Rex 84, remember, and even before that, they would put people in insane asylums for speaking the truth that society did not know but was familiar to the government, right? It says at the end of the 20 years, they have an option for another 20 years. The maximum number of 20 and backs people are allowed to go through is 3, right? Because they don't want the memory to start to deteriorate or that time paradox to start to give them mental illness, right? U.S. inmates are eligible to be taken on a 20 and back by the ICC/Dark Fleet. Remember, ICC is the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, so it's like a secret space program that is linked to NATO, right? It says without their consent doing manual labor as a slave. So some of these people incarcerated are pulled without their consent, but they would never know because they're put right back with that memory wipe, right? It says people who ended up getting scars due to traumatic incidents will receive ghost scars in the same after being regressed. Okay, so they have this outer-worldly technology. It's not far-fetched. Okay, I just wanted to bring this to you guys' attention because what happened in Chicago is just them playing with their toys, right? Pay attention, guys, and be blessed.
But there were a fair amount of women, kind of like what you would see on a naval vessel today. There's a lot of discipline on in an environment like that, as you would imagine. This is like top secret stuff that's like really important. But the few women that were on these vessels were very popular.
I bet. And I want to kind of go into the whole concept of genetic experiments. For people that they don't know what the hell it means. Can you just try to break it down and unpack what it means?
Yeah, I mean, the planet that we're on is a giant experiment in ascension. And what has occurred is that we've had ETs coming in over millennia that are slowly playing with our genetics to enhance our genetics to where we have, like a larger brain or the ability to speak, different things like that to cause us to evolve. And when they can only go so far tinkering with your physiology, they also have to affect your spirituality. So then they've brought in all these religions, come and walk amongst us, and we're like, oh, an angel or a god, and then impart information. That information affects our consciousness, causes it to expand or not expand, depending on what their agenda is. So these experiments are genetic. They come in and they tinker with our genes. They bring in genes from all over the universe that they've collected and splice them in to kind of get the results that they want. But they also tinker with our consciousness.
And who is the one that is deciding to keep it an even playing field? You said like they also bring in spirituality because they can only go so far one way. Who's governing that?
Well, there is a cosmic law with different layers of beings that manage different things. I mean, the blue avian beings were a part of this group that are basically guardians and of this entire galaxy. So they are on a higher plane. They're a higher density being, a higher consciousness being, and they found a way to transcend this physical experience. They come in and they manage things, but a lot of times what they're doing is they're karmically tied to us, because let's say the blue avians, they came back during ancient Egyptian times, delivered information that became a religion, it get perverted, and then that karmically entangled them with us. They cannot evolve anymore until we evolve. So they're karmically, a lot of these higher beings are karmically tied to us, and they're trying to keep other beings from coming in and tinkering with us in a way that's going to prevent them from having their agenda of ascending to higher levels.
And I remember reading about this karmic wheel that we get stuck in. Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Where we reincarnate and we're stuck in it?
Right. And a lot of us get really caught up in these different past lives. When I brought it up to the blue avians, Raw Tier Air, the blue avian that I interacted with, leaned in real close and said, "We are one or we are not." And basically telling me not to get caught up in all of these past lives, because the distortions, the traumas that we have in this life will cause us to identify with being, Genghis Khan or whoever. But the fact is, we were all Genghis Khan. We were all Cleopatra. We were all the guy down the street. We are one. We are the same consciousness having many different experiences. It's like, someone dropped a coin in a video game and leaned back, and they're playing all the characters at the same time.
Right. That's why when you say, "I love you" or "I hate you," you're talking to yourself. And Law of One, Ra talked about that also, of like, don't get caught up in your past lives. And to me, that makes perfect sense. I'm talking to Corey Good. You guys can check out, I'm not done with you, Corey. I'm just going to plug all your stuff. Where can people find, if they're like, oh my God, I'm loving what he has to say, where can they get even more information right now?
Well, my Sphere Being Alliance YouTube channel has a lot of free information that covers a lot of my information. I'm also delivering through my online courses and what will soon be an online platform, ascensionworks.tv. Those are the places where you can find my information most readily.
So excited about this. Ascension Works TV. I loved your course too. I absolutely got so much out of that. Thank you for doing that. I'm looking forward to many more. People talk about light workers, starseeds. Do you know, since you worked with ETs, do you know what star family you're from?
Well, I'm told that I and members of my family had incarnated here from the Blue Avian group. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So basically, many people that we call starseeds or light workers are people from ET groups that have agreed to reincarnate here, forget who and what they are, just to be able to bring up the vibration of the planet and to fulfill certain missions. And many of the people in the audience right now listening may just realize that they're a starseed.
And a lot of starseeds, it's not like they come here and have it very easy. It's actually a very difficult journey, correct?
It's very much the opposite. Just imagine coming from a civilization to where everyone is connected emotionally and, mentally. There's no insecurities. There's not hatred. There's not war. None of these things. And then you accept to go down to this third world planet that all of these horrible atrocities occur on. Going in, it's going to be bad, but when you actually land your feet on the ground and you've forgotten that you're an ascended being, it's not an easy time. People suffer from depression, PTSD, just from this world. It's not where we're from.
And on your 20 and back, this is, and the reason why we say 20 and back is you're about to find this out, audience. It's because what do they do after 20 years of you being in the secret space program?
Well, if I hadn't lost you already, this is usually where we lose people, because at the end of that 20 years, they age regress you with a pharmaceutical means. They put you into a light coma. They strap you in, and they inject you with this cocktail that they play with using frequencies to dial back your biological age. And at the end of that, they slide you into this giant, what looks like a big tube or MRI machine that's just a solid tube. They slide you in, close the door, push a button, and open the door, but 20 years in the past. They're opening in the same machine, they open the same door, and now you've been kind of faxed from the future to the past. You're in the same machine. They pull you out, they revive you, they do the blank slating methods that they have to make you forget your time in the programs. And then they fly you down and reinsert you within, an hour of when they took you. So they're taking you back in time, age regressing you, and wiping your mind of all the memories of your service, and then reinserting you into your timeline.
The MK Ultra programs were very factual and very real. There's 149 declassified sub-projects of MK Ultra. Do you think that would be a way to implant some kind of false memory into the recipient's head, and then it lay dormant for a little while, and then later on in their life they would remember that false implanted memory through the MK Ultra process?
That's certainly something that they did. There's plenty of evidence that they did that. And there's speculation they created, Manchurian candidates, assassins, that they created people with multiple personality or DID, dissociative identity disorder, for specific purposes. There's plenty of evidence for that. So that's certainly part of what was going on.
Bring people in to the military, send them through training, testing, find out where their skills lean, and if they have the fortitude for this type of mission. And then they're invited in or drafted in, and they'll serve a 20-year term. And this is referred to as a 20 and back. And after that 20 years, they're actually age regressed and regressed back in time using the technology that was handed to us by non-terrestrials. And then they were buttoned up in time and placed back in their life. And then they finish out the rest of their military term and then return to civilian life, having no memory of serving in the secret space program. The whole point of regressing people back in time after serving in the 20 and back and wiping their memory has to do with a deal that was made with an extraterrestrial group that gave us that technology. There's a Nordic group that are engaged in a time and space battle with a reptilian group. This battle's gone on for many thousands of years.
When delving into this research, some people formulate ideas that there's only good extraterrestrials here or there's only bad extraterrestrials.